the Sonoran Desert in the south of the United States. A harsh, hot, and unforgiving landscape straddling the border with Mexico. A natural barrier, not so much a protective wall, but a regional belt dividing the bodies of two nations. Thousands of illegal migrants cross into this area of Arizona every year. To them, it represents a gateway to a better life. In reality, it's often a gauntlet of death from which they may never return. Crossing the desert to avoid these steel and concrete walls which mark the border in urban areas.
When we're on a main road like this, we look for people, anybody out here, they could be standing on the side of the road if they have made it this far and need help. Atención médica, aquí está una doctora. Llámanos si necesitan algo.
Volunteer Catherine Ferguson and physician Norma Price are Samaritans, rescuing those who are in desperate need of help, illegals who've been physically and mentally defeated by the deadly conditions.
People walk not only in trails, but they walk in circles because they're lost. So you could have a child walking out here, you could have a man, a grandmother, or you could have a group of people, and all I'm doing is looking for anything that looks like a human being.
But Catherine and Norma aren't the only ones on the lookout.
Two groups, both 10 plus.
10 plus, two groups, 10 plus. The United States government has as many Border Patrol and Border Patrol backup as there are stars in the sky.
In an attempt to secure its borders, the current administration is spending billions of dollars on enforcement. Money many argue is doing little to stop the human traffic, merely rerouting it.
Since they've closed the ports, it forces people out into this arid desert, and people are dying. So it is supposed to send a message back to the villages in Mexico that if you come here, you'll die out in the desert. It's a policy of death.
They really don't know what they're facing. I mean, they don't know how hot and dry it is. Most of them, if they haven't been here before, they don't know about the desert. And we see women in high heel shoes or wedge shoes, and they'll have one bottle of water. And in this environment that is so hot and dry and desolate, they need, if they have any degree of heat exhaustion or heat illness, they need to be taken to the hospital immediately. And the heat literally just cooks the organs, the brain, the heart, the kidneys. We see a lot of pregnant women, and that also increases the risk that they'll get into trouble. The worst, saddest of all, of course, is the children. And we see situations where children die.
But for those making the passage, it's a terrible choice. A gamble, really. Face death and avoid capture, or seek help, even if that means deportation.
Hola, señor! Hola, señor!
Ahead in the distance, emerging from the scrub, stands a solitary figure. His decision has been made. Paying with his life is too high a price for passage to the promised land.
¿Necesitan agua y comida?
Buenos días, señor. ¿Cómo está? Me llamo Catalina. Somos samaritanos. Somos de la iglesia.
Frightened, disorientated, and exhausted, his story is like so many others, left behind when he couldn't keep up with the group.
¿Cuántas personas fueron en el grupo?
25.
25.
Se quedaron 3, como 2 días fue, hasta acá aguanté.
¿Y por qué viene aquí a los Estados Unidos?
Porque debo bastante dinero a mi país y quiero pagar por eso.
¿Y cuántos días está aquí solo?
5 días, con hoy. Que era difícil, pero que había que probar, porque si uno no prueba nunca sabe cuál es la realidad. Como no solo te cuentan, no, ahí se pasa fácil, o ahí no se puede, entonces hay que mejor venir a probar para ver. El primer día fue bonito porque salimos de noche, solo caminó de noche, no había mucha espina. Ya el segundo día mucha espina, mucho frío, empezó a llover, bien mojado, el pantalón ya se mojó como 6, 8 veces, como ha estado lloviendo todas las noches y se moja y se vuelve a secar. Ajá, fue difícil. Esta camisa era nueva, ya está toda rota, vieja. Pero Dios sabe la verdad.
¿Pensó de tu familia?
Mucho.
¿Y de qué?
Que ya sabían que me había quedado y que saber que...
The Samaritans present him with his options, but his face betrays the answer.
¿Qué es su sentido?
Regresar a México.
Sí.
It's off of 286.
US law means the Samaritans can do nothing but call the Border Patrol. Placing an illegal in their own car would mean a possible jail sentence.
Anybody that gives them a ride will be arrested if they're caught. We can't do that. They could spend 5 years in prison for transporting an illegal alien and 10 years for conspiring against the United States government.
With little time to collect his thoughts and belongings, he's arrested by the Border Patrol. And this is a first-hand look at the law in action.
You have to stand back. Federal agent doing my job. Back off, please.
I apologize for America. There are really nice Americans here. Those guys were not nice.
But if the authorities appear to be taking a hard line, there's a reason for their lack of hospitality. The truth is, many who attempt to cross illegally will do so again and again until they succeed. And that means zero tolerance.
Senor, my life is in danger. I prefer you shut that off on me.
Okay.
Because you put it on the web, okay? They have warned you.
Oh my goodness, these are human beings. We're dealing with intelligent, feeling, sentient beings, and we can't give them socks or water. There's something very wrong with that.
We have a schizophrenic sign at the border. We have this big sign that says, keep out. And at the same time, metaphorically, we have the sign that says, help wanted. There's a tremendous lure of jobs. We have significant sectors in the economy that need large numbers of low-skilled workers that we're not producing in the native-born population. And there are no legal channels for those workers to come in. And therefore, the only way those workers can enter in large numbers is illegally.
Judith GANS is an academic and an immigration expert. She knows the statistics speak for themselves.
Since 2000, people have been entering at the rate of about 850,000 a year. There are currently an estimated 12 million people in the country illegally, and that's a huge number. But the other thing that's happening is that immigrants are going to what we call non-traditional states. Communities all over the country are suddenly waking up to find large foreign-born populations in their midst, in their schools, and it seemed like it happened overnight, and people are sort of saying, wait a minute, what's going on? And there's a feeling that the system's out of control, which in fact it is. I mean, there are serious problems with our immigration system.
A series of fences dotted along the 3,000-kilometer border between the United States and Mexico were designed to stem the flow of illegal movement in urban areas. Based on current estimates, the system is a failure.
The walls have not been an effective deterrent. They've changed the way and the costs involved in getting in. At the time that the fence was put up in California, the assumption was that the desert was too difficult an environment and that the desert itself would be an effective wall and people wouldn't come in through the desert. And that has turned out to be false. People have come in through the desert, and as you know, a lot of people have died trying to cross.
Despite this, the walls will continue to go up, with President Bush signing off on the Secure Fence Act in 2006, approving the construction of a wall stretching 1,000 kilometers. On the other side of the fence, the lure of the American dollar appeals to both citizens and the Mexican government alike.
Mexico benefits tremendously by having its workers here. Remittances, money being sent home by Mexican citizens working in the United States to their families in Mexico. It's the second largest source of foreign currency in Mexico. It lessens the social pressure within the country. So Mexico, in a real way, doesn't have a huge incentive to stop this.
Though for Dora Rosas, all she can see is a separation barrier which has divided her family.
My son went to the United States because his work paid him so little. He worked very hard, but here, the culture is to pay people very little, to make them work hard, but not to pay much, so he decided to go over there.
But without legal status, Juan cannot move between the two countries. So for the past 14 years, he hasn't seen his family in Mexico.
The main thing about having a family is not the money, it's being together. I've always managed with my husband and daughter. We're all in one boat, and if we don't get out together, we're not going to get out. It's the same for fathers on the other side that are sending money here. But if the mother and the kids are alone, what's the point?
It's a sacrifice millions have been willing to make, and a path many more seem certain to follow.